Right, recording my M9 top lessons. I got four main lessons. I checked all the weekly lessons one by one. I rewrote those all, and then I checked like the top ones from each. And now I just rewrote them with more clarity, more understanding, and just to recall them again by do best spaced repetition, and then also make them more clear and more actionable. And so the first one is automatic compliance by just explaining why. I read this from a book and it said like always explain why and people will comply more likely. And I tested it, and I thought about myself as well. Like that's so important, even though it's a stupid reason. Can I get ahead of you in shopping in this shopping queue because my cat is hungry? And they're like, cool. But if you don't say the reason, they might not comply. So lesson is by default, always explain why something is being done, and people are much more likely to comply with you. Steps are when you want people or yourself to do anything, explain why it is important, even if the reason is not that relevant. Still explain why. What's how people comply with you more than they would without the why. Create a habit of always explaining why and make sure people get the why as well. Okay. So, summary, always explain why. Make sure that people get the why if you want them to comply extremely well. And that's the main two steps. Always explain why you need to get something done, and then make sure that people get the why. And then live a lesson title is live as it's already your second time and you're here to correct your way. I watched Elon Musk, he mentioned this from a book called Man's Search for Meaning, and it struck me. I spent weeks of trying to understand because it sounded smart, but I really couldn't figure out immediately how to use it. So once I grasped the essentials, I wrote a lesson of this, and I've been using as a mental frame to not repeat my mistakes and go through the trouble of like just not doing them again. All right. So lesson is live your life as if this is your second time and a chance to correct your mistakes, and you are about to repeat the same mistakes as in the first time. So you are expecting that you're gonna repeat those mistakes in the first time, as in the first time. Avoid the credit of pain and acknowledge that you don't know if you ever get a third chance. So better to do it well now. Steps are imagine that you are now living a second time and you are here to correct your mistakes. Remind yourself of all the pain it caused to make those mistakes, or imagine how painful it will be if you make them again. Oh, yeah. And then third, act as if you're about to repeat all those painful mistakes and you don't know if you get a third chance. Then you act from that. And then third one is about onboarding principles. So my client called me and told me that the onboarding of the product has not been successful and the user is not adopting the software because they didn't have enough time to properly learn it. And then we spoke about the onboarding process and how he was able to successfully be onboarded into a software after was it 3 days or 3 weeks of onboarding, and the same software he was able to learn it, understand it, start to use it, get benefits. He likes to use the software these days. Back in the days, he got onboarding to that software, which was one day, and then he got just frustrated and like, fuck this, I don't like this, and it doesn't work. But he wasn't properly onboarded, so that was the issue, and we spoke about it. So what I learned from this is onboarding is something new. It takes weeks or even months. Often it takes months, not days or hours. To do it well, you spread the onboarding throughout time. And the steps you have to do are first, tell what and why, and then how. Second, show how it's going to be done and make the people to take notes. Then, third, you let people do it by themselves and you correct the major mistakes quickly. And then at last, once they're comfortable, you let them do it totally by themselves, but there must be a measure, how you measure if they're successful, onboarded. How many hours they have to use it every day. For example, okay. If any of the steps aren't working, move backwards in the process until it does work. Steps are: understand that onboarding to something completely new takes months, not days or hours. Use weeks/days between the sessions and aim to be periods like 4 to 6 weeks. 4 to 6 weeks. Start onboarding by selling what and why, and then how it will be done, and how they will get benefits. Then show it how it is done, and then make them to take notes. Then they'll do it by themselves, and you correct their major mistakes. Once they're comfortable, you let them do it by themselves, and you measure their success. So you have to have a measure, a number, how you measure if they're successful or not. And if any of these steps fail, that they don't work, then you just move backwards in the process until it does work. All right. Oh. Sorry, I just got an idea. Last lesson is, damn, I have to write it down. Yep. The fourth one is, which I think is highly important, is that its name title is critic from people means that your work is worthwhile and a great opportunity to learn. So I received sharp negative feedback about a product. It triggered my my feeling of my work doesn't matter, and which led to indecision and mental freeze instead of action. My lesson I gained is that negative feedback can feel like a threat to my need of meaningful contribution. In reality, critic means people care enough to engage. Proof the work matters. So if I stay calm and reframe, I can truly turn that energy into improvement. That's my lesson. Steps are specifically: first, spot the trigger. Notice that my work is meaningless feeling as soon as it appears. Okay, first. Second, reframe the meaning. So remind yourself, feedback equals to proof of contribution plus chance to grow. So to create things. If it's negative, fine. Proof of contribution and then chance to grow. Boom. And then third, channel to action. Pick one concrete improvement step and do it to break down the paralysis immediately.